We're here with Jessica Wendling. My friend Jessica, she is so fantastic. It's so lovely. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us today.
Thank you for inviting me to be on the show. I'm so excited.
Well, I was excited to have you on the show because you are a clinical nutritionist, and this term microbiome keeps popping up. I'm seeing it more and more in magazines, in media, and for a lot of us, what in the heck is a microbiome, Jessica?
Yeah, that's the crazy part is it like comes through the media and people are like, oh, I have to take care of my microbiome. But a lot of people don't even know what that really is. So what I do is I work with people uncovering what is going on in their microbiome. So your microbiome is a makeup of the diversity of the bacteria within your body. So from top to bottom, your body has good and bad bacteria. Our hope is that the good bacteria is higher than the bad bacteria because that good bacteria helps with your normal organ function, normal cellular function, your mood, your hormone balance, your skin, the aging process. It's so interconnected that it's absolutely incredible the research that's coming out with how important taking care of your microbiome is.
So, that's kind of a foreign concept to a lot of us because you hear about bacteria. Well, shouldn't you have antibacterial soap? Shouldn't you be getting rid of bacteria?
Yeah,
And yet here you're saying there's good bacteria.
yeah, that's a really big part of what's going on in our culture is that we are a sterile culture. And so we have antibacterial soaps, antibacterial hand sanitizer. We keep our kids from playing in the dirt and then touching their face or touching their mouth. We go out and garden, but then we come back in, we wash our hands really quick so we don't expose ourselves to too many bacteria. But really, our body thrives in bacteria. And so when we cut all of that bacteria out, we really do a disservice to the function of our body on a baseline level because that sterility is what causes baseline inflammation. And inflammation is the baseline to chronic disease. So more good bacteria is better for your body to function correctly than no bacteria at all.
So what I'm hearing you say is that good bacteria in this microbiome has a direct effect on how a woman feels in her body and in this world.
Absolutely. So there's actually a research study that came out probably 3 or 4 years ago on breast cancer and the microbiome. And it actually looked at breasts that had breast cancerous cells in it, and then a breast that was normal. There's no cancer in it. It came up normal on a PET scan. And they tested the bacterial levels between the cancerous breast and the normal breast. What they found is that the breast tissue that had malignant cancer in it had no bacteria whatsoever. So it was completely sterile of bacteria. It was dead cells. The breast tissue that didn't have cancer in it was actually had a diverse range of bacteria in it. So we're seeing that tissue in our bodies, particularly with study with breast tissue, that bodies that work to have better balance of good and bad bacteria, so those probiotics that we all talk about, so good bacteria in your gut actually helps stave off diseases like cancer. So sterile environments can cause issues like cancer and other things related to your skin, like eczema or things that pop up on the surface of your skin, just by virtue of having good bacteria and diversity in your bacteria in your gut.
Oh my goodness. I had no idea about that. And I'm someone who's, relatively involved within the healthcare scene. I had not heard that certain types of breast cancer would be sterile and not have any
Yeah.
sort of bacteria within them.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible the research that they're doing to look at more of a cellular level for what this bacteria is doing. And really what we're meant to do as just normal everyday people. I mean, what do you do with bacteria? How do you get good bacteria? And so looking at particular strains, each human body has a different makeup of what that bacteria is on the inside. So not one person is going to have the exact specific bacteria as the next person. So there are tons of different probiotics or probiotic heavy foods that are the good bacteria that you feed your body. And so really what research is trying to look at is what are really great species or specimen of bacteria that we can internally take, so either in a form of a pill or in like normal actual food that you would buy from the grocery store or garden yourself, and how do we use those foods to create that good diverse microbiome, those gut bacteria that will help to decrease the risk of disease and chronic inflammation and long-term health, looking at decreasing risks of cancer and heart disease and thyroid dysfunction and mood disorders and things that are, we look at long-term. How do we really start now and not have those things later on?
And now you got my brain kind of bubbling here. I'm curious, which kinds of bacteria are some of the most popular ones that these experts are saying are beneficial for us?
So typically what you're seeing in like your normal probiotic that you would get off the shelf, you're going to see your bifidobacterium and then your lactobacillus. And there are different strains within both of those. So there is research that either of those or both of those combined can help with stuff like depression and mood disorders. They can help with your skin. So there's actually a research study. I'm going to just read a quote to you because I found this fascinating. Lactobacillus strains, so there's multiple with under that umbrella, but they've been seeing observations rise that intriguing prospects that feeding of this just the right kind of bacteria, so this lactobacillus strains, can exert profound beneficial effects on skin homeostasis, skin inflammation, hair growth, and peripheral tissue responses to perceived stress. So they're actually saying that these different strains are actually having an effect on our skin, the process to which our skin grows and our hair growth and how the skin reacts to stressful responses.
So we are definitely wanting to promote those kinds of bacteria within our gut if we want healthy skin and we want less wrinkles and less blemishes and red spots. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Yes, absolutely. And really, it doesn't just stop with the bacteria. Once you have the good bacteria, you have to feed the bacteria too. So bacteria is a living organism. And that's part of the reason why when we eat, we want to eat nutrient-dense whole foods that are real, not processed, not dead food. So foods that you would buy in boxes or off the shelf, pre-prepared meals, because those bacteria have to be alive to function the way that you want them to function in your body. So it's not just eating the bacteria or consuming or touching things that will bring in that good bacteria and that diverse range of bacteria, but also feeding that good bacteria so that you're not just starving the bad bacteria, but you're helping to proliferate the good stuff.
So you're telling me that Kraft mac and cheese and chicken nuggets won't help my microbiome?
Nope. Unfortunately, those foods are really detrimental to your gut microbiome. And really the reason is most people are like, okay, I know that I'm not supposed to eat boxed foods. Like, that's clear, but why do I not eat boxed foods? Well, the most foundational reason that I give to clients is that boxed food, the reason it lasts so long on the shelf is because there are preservatives that are inside the food to make sure that it doesn't grow mold and bacteria and other things. And so the food is actually dead itself. So you're consuming food that has preservatives on it, so nothing will grow with it. So you're really eating food that won't promote the growth of your bacteria in your body, and it won't even help to stimulate more bacteria being in your body, the good stuff. And so it's really just eating dead food that won't help on the health level whatsoever.
Now that is interesting to me from the Chinese medicine perspective, because we talk a lot about qi, of course, being the body's energy, and we get our energy from the food we eat. So if you have dead food, doesn't that necessarily, it essentially means it doesn't have as much qi or energy to it. And so eating foods that are closer to the garden or closer to the farm, as opposed to just, being found in a box, and already prepared, these things that, take a little bit of work are actually more beneficial because they have more living energy to them.
Precisely.
Okay. So we're getting some crossover here.
I love it.
How did you fall into this work? I mean, were you fascinated by bacteria and that's kind of how you got into this, or how did you become a clinical nutritionist, Jessica?
So I started out just in the nutrition world because I was fascinated with health, how we emotionally eat and how we functionally eat and what our brain does when we eat something or when we think about eating something. I was just fascinated with that. My bachelor's degree is in nutrition with a psychology minor. So I really wanted to focus on the counseling part of eating because I think we have such a huge disconnect between the actual emotional component to what you eat and how that works out in your overall health and long-term health. And when I got into my bachelor's degree, there wasn't really much like in-depth work with nutrition, and so I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And when I started my graduate degree, a lot of what we talked about was functional nutrition, really finding the baseline issues with disease and dysfunction and helping people to heal those things and remove that dysfunction as opposed to just band-aiding it or doing diets that were either fad diets or just helping somebody lose weight without seeing what that baseline issue was. And so what fascinated me most about the gut is that it's so interconnected with so many other parts and pieces and systems of the body that it's really one of the things that I go to first when I talk to clients. When they walk in my door, it's something that we talk about right away because it's so important to the integral functions of the brain and the immune system and the skin, and all those parts and pieces play into how your gut functions. And so I became so passionate about making sure people understand that not all bacteria is bad and no bacteria is not good. We want a good balance between good and bad, but we really want that diversity to help impact how we function every day. I mean, every minute of every day, your bacteria has an effect on how you function.
Now, what I heard from you is that the bacteria in your gut can have an effect on your brain.
Yes.
How in the world does that happen?
So there's this thing called the gut-brain axis. It's usually called GBA, and it's this connection highway between your brain and your gut. And so your gut, the bacteria in your gut speak to your brain and vice versa. So you have this conversation going on through the highways of the body, so the vagus nerve, from the brain to the gut and back and forth to hormone levels and mood disruptions and sleeping cycles and stress responses. And there's a direct correlation between how the gut is functioning and how the brain is functioning. And so they've done lots of research studies on people that suffer from depression or anxiety, and helping to feed their good gut bacteria helps with decreasing anxiety and depression, or even increases the ability for the medication they're taking to work better because the hormones in their brain are being produced more readily and they're more effective to what they're supposed to be doing on a cellular level.
That is fascinating. So
Yeah.
the itty bitty little bacteria, depending upon the balance of good versus bad, I would assume if you've got an overgrowth of bad bacteria, that you would see more depression and overeating and different kinds of negative kind of behaviors. It's almost like these little bacteria are hijacking us.
Yeah, and it's crazy.
In a way.
And we absolutely have this problem too with no bacteria. I mean, we can overconsume antibiotics in the US on such a profound level that antibiotics don't just kill the bad bacteria, they kill good bacteria too. And so we see a lot of correlation between over antibiotic use and not rebuilding the gut after those antibiotics take effect. And then that detrimental effect with mood disorders and actual brain function, as well as the immune system and like autoimmune issues, thyroid issues, things that really depend on the ability for your immune system to function and your brain to function in order for those things to work hand in hand. It's been said that I heard in a podcast a while ago that there's 7.7 million pounds of antibiotics that are prescribed every year in the United States. And so we're really over consuming something that does take a detrimental effect on not just our gut, but on our brain function, our immune system function, our skin, our ability to focus and have attention, everything. I mean, it's just profound what the connection is.
Good grief.
Yeah.
So do you recommend that people take antibiotics then? I mean, if they're sick?
There is definitely a positive use for antibiotics. I will never tell a patient, like, no, don't take an antibiotic, because there is a time and a purpose for antibiotics in our body, especially when we're talking about like high risk for bacterial infections, bad bacterial infections. What I usually recommend is that people that are on antibiotics are also taking a probiotic as well. So there has to be a time difference between when you take the antibiotic and when you take the probiotic, but you can take them simultaneously, and that helps to rebalance what's being killed off. So you're not completely eradicating all the bacteria, but you're still aiding your body in that process of making sure you're not, getting a horrible bacterial infection, but you're also preventing the ground zero where we don't have any bacteria at all and we have to start from the bottom up. So we're starting at a much easier place to rebuild that diversity than from ground zero.
If you are building from ground zero, are there specific foods that you would recommend someone eat?
Yes, absolutely. So usually when we're kind of coming from a ground zero point, we start with probiotics. So I use one particular brand. It's called Clear Labs. There's a specific one for adults. There's a specific one for women and their pH levels and their reproductive organs. There's one for children and there's one for infants as well. And we start with that probiotic because it has such a high level of bacteria per capsule that you're taking. And then we use different foods in addition to that probiotic so that we can help diversify the bacteria. So foods like sauerkraut or kombucha or kimchi or other fermented foods that are really helping to rebuild that diversity of bacteria that comes from different foods. And each, a bottle of kombucha that you drink, each serving of sauerkraut that you eat is going to have a different species of bacteria that's associated with it, especially if it's from a different source or a different brand. You're going to get some differences there. So you're helping to rebuild that bacteria faster at a much higher variety. And then also eating your prebiotic foods too. So feeding the good bacteria so that they continue to proliferate. So eating foods like garlic and bananas and asparagus, leeks, things that are going to give the good fiber to those bacteria so that they continue living. So we don't have die-off of the good bacteria you just ate a bunch of.
Just so long as we don't mix the garlic and the bananas together, right?
Not good.
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm going to switch things up a little bit here, Jessica.
Yeah.
And I want to know what your definition of Foxy is. What does Foxy mean to Jessica Wendling?
I think Foxy means confidence and joy. And I really think it means freedom from these constraints that we have built around us, especially as women. We have all these boxes that we're put into with how we're supposed to look and how we're supposed to feel and what size we're supposed to be. And I really think that breaking free of that, those constraints that society and social media and everything else puts around us is that like beginning stage of foxiness, this freedom that you get to be exactly who you are and exactly who you were meant to be. And knowing that what health means to you may not be the same to another person, but you get to thrive in that and really be foxy from the inside out.
And when in your life, I guess I should put this a different way. I'm sure there's a time in your life where you haven't felt that foxiness. What did you do to step back into that and reclaim it?
I think part of it was recognizing that I had to take steps on my own to feel I think health and foxiness go right hand in hand. And
You
for
bet
me,
they
it
do.
was, feeling like I had stepped back from my routine of going to the gym and even just walking on a treadmill just to get those endorphins going and just feeling well, or just getting up and making myself a smoothie in the morning instead of waiting until, a couple hours later to eat breakfast. But really, to me, it was stepping back into what makes me feel good. And maybe I'm not what where I think I should be, but taking those steps to get back to that place of feeling good on the inside, because I feel like that translated so much more on the outside, as opposed to trying to put things on top to make me feel better. Those worked for a time being, but really ultimately it was fixing what was going on inside to shine outward. And a big part of that for me was figuring out how to eat to my body's needs and figuring out how to exercise to my body's needs and finding a way to de-stress the lovely world that we live in that's just high strung all the time, and really stepping back from those things and realizing what I needed to do internally to feel Foxy on the outside.
And did you have to find other professionals, or how did you go about finding about how to eat right for you, how to de-stress for you? How did you take those steps?
Yeah, so I have a network of friends and other practitioners that I love relying on for my own clients, and I really took that into my personal need as well. And so I have a really good friend who does yoga and essential oils work, and so she was my first call, and we sat down together and we just talked about what does it look like to feel good in my own skin again, and how do I step back into this space of health and healing to where I don't feel like I'm trying really hard to pretend like everything's good on the outside and not really going well on the inside. And I really, really enjoyed working with somebody that was very, very in tune with their inner self and working towards yoga and stress relief, and just kind of that meditative state. And then I have quite a few other friends that work across the United States doing nutrition work, and really connecting with them and going, okay, I've gotten a little far from where I would like to be, and how do I step back into foods that are making me feel better, but also making me heal better on the inside, and really taking into account that you can't do it all on your own all the time, and having good friends that are really good at what they do, especially when it comes to the healthcare world, is really, really amazing. So I definitely reached out to quite a few people, like health coach wise, exercise training, yoga. I work for a chiropractor as well, and used her very frequently to help me feel better. But yeah, I think it takes an army, because we think we can do it all by ourselves, but really at the end of the day, it is taking a village to feel better and heal better.
Speaking of that village, who out of your village kind of embodies foxiness?
I would have to say my friend Jovi. She's the yoga instructor. She just embodies that like confidence and that joyful just presence in everything that she does, and she just fuels that fire of foxiness. I feel like she steps into a room and you just look at her like, wow, you just have everything from the inside out. And maybe she doesn't feel that way, but I totally see it on the outside, and she just embodies that confidence and that joy to me. I just love watching her work with people. I love working with her myself. Yeah, I think she'd be the person that I'd say, yep, she's what embodies the foxiness.
I think if I were to talk to some of your patients, they would probably say the exact same thing about you. That'd be my
I hope
guess.
so.
Well, out of the many patients that you've served so far, who in your mind has had the most outstanding results or outstanding transformation?
I've had quite a few like middle-aged women that are going through some transitional parts of their life. And really, we weren't working on anything specific as much as we were just working on some emotional transformation. But one in particular, she came to me and she was looking for just some help eating better. I mean, she's like, I want to lose weight. I want to, eat better, whatever. That was like the goal. And when we sat down originally, we started talking about, okay, what did your childhood look like? What did your adolescence look like? What does adulthood look like? What do you eat on a daily basis? And what it really came down to was just this emotional trauma with food and this emotional disconnect between what she felt like and what she thought that she needed to do in order to feel better. And when we kind of sat down and peeled apart all those layers of self-confidence issues and just kind of some emotional trauma that was going on, some stress-related issues that she was taking on from family members and friends and people in her life, we really got to the bottom, the baseline of what was going on, which was that she just needed to have an outlet. She needed to feel like she was being heard, and she needed to feel like it was okay for her health journey to look different than her friend's health journey or her family member's health journey. And so it was really fun to watch her transform into just the person that she always was, but that she was covering up on the inside because everybody else told her she had to be something else. And we really didn't change that much food-wise, but we changed a lot on the mental aspect of how we approach health. And that was powerful to me. I just remember looking at her thinking, wow, you are not the same person, even slightly, that you were when you first walked into my office. You have completely transformed from the inside out. And the way that she approaches her life now is totally different. It's a 360. I mean, she embodies that confidence now because she just needed to feel like her journey didn't have to be the same as everybody else's. But, coming back to this baseline of it's okay to love eating. It's okay to love food. It's okay to go to the gym. And then if you are going to meet somebody and have a donut, it's okay. I mean, we all do that kind of stuff. But just recognizing that she is healthy and that she can make those choices on her own without the influence of other people.
Yay! I love it. That's such a good holistic answer where we're dealing not just with, okay, you got to eat this thing and this nutrient and that, very clinical, but actually addressing the whole person.
Yes.
I love that kind of work. And I'm so glad that you are out there doing that. What's the best way for people who might want to work with you or find out more about you and your work? How do they get a hold of you? How do they get more information?
So I have a couple ways that you can get a hold of me. I have a Facebook page that a lot of people like to reach out to because most everybody has a Facebook page these days. And I am constantly checking that to make sure that I'm answering people's questions, posting new research, posting new information just for people to consume. Easily consumable information helps to disseminate some of that really, really great stuff as opposed to some of the media-driven things that we have going on in our culture right now. So my Facebook page is a really excellent way to get me. It's New-trition, so NEW-trition, TRITION, and it's just on Facebook. And then I have a good email address that I check regularly as well. And then my website is nutritionwindsor.com, same spelling, NEWTRITION, Windsor.com. And I have a blog on there that has tons of information about what I do and just some tips and tricks for healthy lifestyle and diet modification. And then tons of information on what I do in my office and how you can come work with me and reestablish your love for health and your health journey.
Fantastic. We are just about out of time here, Jess, but I'm going to ask you one more question. That's, what is your number one bit of advice for taking care of your microbiome? If you could only do one thing to make sure that you keep that microbiome healthy and diverse, what should it be?
The one thing that I would tell people that are coming into my office is, and this is going to sound really hard because we all have it, stress less. Your stress has a profound impact on your gut microbiome, as well as your brain function, your heart function, your reproductive system, anything and everything. Stress is so interrelated. So if you can do one thing, find some mindful time every single day, 15 minutes, meditate, find a guided meditation, but just step away from the stresses of life. Find a way to just bring that down, because that will completely change your health journey if you can step away from that stress, even for 15 minutes a day, because it does have such a negative impact on our health on such a foundational level.
Well, there we go, ladies. Stress less, eat more diversely, get out in nature, go garden, get a little dirty. It's all okay. And check out New-trition, New-trition, Windsor, WINDSOR.com if you want more information about Jessica. I'll also have the link in the show notes. So you can just go to the getfoxyshow.com, find Jessica's episode here. It'll be right in that show note for you. Jessica, thank you so much for taking the time. I always enjoy getting to chat with you. You are just a little bright ray of sunshine.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun talking on the podcast. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure getting to chat with you this morning and just getting to share my passion for nutrition and all things bacteria related.